Hey, this is Russ. Yep, it's another wet, cold, gloomy, overcast day. Yeah, I think this is going to be the norm going forward. Yeah, I actually went out without a sweatshirt. I ran back home and put one on. You can see it on my arms. Got my black sweatshirt on. So, yeah, I feel it's not going to get much better. I think most of the weather is going to be under 70 degrees going forward. I mean, it is October, obviously, and I don't think we're going to get that much warm weather anymore. So, what's on my agenda today? Well, let me tell you what our mileage is. We're at 2,492 miles, which means we have 8 more miles to go to hit the 2,500 mile mark. And being that it's kind of cold, it kind of rained a little bit in the morning, once again, I felt it's best to stick around and not go to the farthest places, stay with the closest places that we usually go to. You know, these rides, I kind of thought about it and I said, you know, it's got to be boring for these guys to keep watching the same stuff over and over, but then I keep going on them. I'm not that bored of them. Hopefully you're not that bored either, but someone said to me once that it's more about the things we talk about than the actual ride. Yeah, that could be. I look forward to our talks. So let me enlighten you on some things today. I decided today, since we're going to be hitting the milestone of 2,500 miles in just 8 more miles, that I should probably tell you a little bit about what I've learned about e-bikes and e-bike riding since getting the e-bike early in April. Because as many of you know, I've ridden quite a bit in that short time. So I had to have learned something out of this whole thing. And then one of our viewers, John, asked me too, hey, if you were to buy a new e-bike today, what would you buy? I thought that was a good question because I really hadn't thought much about it. Would I buy the same thing? Would I buy a different model? What would I do? So I figured today would be a good thing to talk about. About what would I do if I was looking at e-bikes today, knowing the things that I know, having owned an e-bike since April, having ridden almost 2,500 miles on it. What would I buy? What would I do different? Or would I stay with what I have? Of course, I don't know every e-bike that's out there, but I do watch all the various YouTube videos on e-bikes. I've watched the reviews and I haven't tried them all. Obviously, I don't know what someone else's e-bike feels like or even is capable of. And I don't pretend to know it either because I really have no intention of being an e-bike reviewer. I don't want to go out and buy tons of e-bikes and try them all out. So let me tell you my feelings on e-bikes as of today. Well, I have a Rad Rover 5, okay, from Rad Power Bikes. Now the Rad Rover 5, well, the Rad Rovers in general are one of the most popular e-bikes on the market today. I mean, you can say what you want, but that's just the facts. they sell a lot of these bikes. And so the company has a very high reputation, but I think during the pandemic and the supply chain issues, some of that reputation may have dropped a little bit to some people because they couldn't get their bikes fast enough, so they blamed the company. Or maybe there was a part that they needed, maybe it was damaged in shipping and they couldn't get it, so they blamed the company. Yeah, part of it's the blame to the company, but part of it is not. Part of it is really supply chain issues. So you have to kind of realize that. And I think every e-bike company out there has had some type of issue with supplying parts and supplying bikes and batteries and all sorts of things. So, yeah, I do feel a little bit of drizzle hitting me. But as long as it's not like downpouring on us, I'm going to just kind of keep going. And so I ended up with a Rad Rover 5 because I knew the reputation was good for the company overall. It was a company that was backed here in the United States, not made here in the US, obviously. They buy it overseas just like everybody else does. But they have input on what they want designed. They don't just simply buy what's out there. And so they make changes. You know, they're currently on version 6 right now. I'm on version 5. So, would I upgrade to the 6? We'll talk about that. So anyways, I bought this bike because I figured if anything went wrong, I at least have a U.S. company I could go to and at least complain to. Whether they respond fast or not might be another story, but at least I have somebody in the U.S. to talk about. I think between the Hemiway Cruiser and the Rad Rover 5 were probably the two bikes I was most interested in. The Hemiway Cruiser, my cousin has two of those. I've seen it in person. And another gentleman who rode this path who has one. We stopped and talked and compared our bikes. It's very similar. The major difference I see with the Hemiway, though, the Hemiway has, I think they have like a 17 amp hour or 17.5 amp hour battery. These are 48 volt batteries. The Rad Rover 5 is a 48 volt battery, but it has 14.5 amp hours, which means the Hemiway has a little bit more range because it's a little bit longer power time, right? And both have a 750 watt claimed motor, but I think the Hemiway may be truly a 750, whereas the Rad Rover may actually be a 500 watt motor that peaks at 750. That's what most people feel, because of when you compare this bike to others, this one's usually slower than others. So the Hemiway actually has a couple things up on the Rad Rover. The Hemiway also gives you a rear rack. On the Rad Rover, you gotta buy the rear rack if you want one. So if you add those things up, maybe a more powerful motor, bigger battery, a rear rack, for I think around the same price, if I'm not mistaken, same retail price maybe, the Hemiway is a better buy. So I was thinking about it. I still ended up with the Rad Rover. And that was only because I wasn't sure whether I wanted to trust sending my money to Hemiway, because you actually have to deal with China. They claim they're here in the U.S., but they may have a U.S. office, but really you're dealing with China. So I didn't really want to do that, and so I decided I was not going to buy the Hemiway. So I ended up with the Rad Rover 5. Now, let's compare that to the 6, right? And usually when we do these comparison things, you get a lot of negative comments from other people who find it, and they say, how could you make these comparisons? You never rode one. You can take a look at specifications, things that they claim to have. You can make some judgments based on that. I'm not claiming that I've ever rode it. I've never claimed that I've ever seen it. But I can tell you my impressions based on what I see and whether I want one like that or not. So I made a video about it, and yeah, some people poo-pooed it. They kind of said, "Yeah, you're talking bad about it." You know who usually says that? It's the guy who's going to buy a Rad Rover 6. He's the guy that hates that review because you're saying bad things about it. But I'm telling you the reality of it, okay? So let's talk about the 5 and the 6, because obviously that would be something. Would I do that if I were to upgrade or change or modify? So the 6 has a battery that fits into the down tube, halfway into the down tube. So the battery doesn't stick up quite as much, okay? Yeah, that's kind of cool. But it also kind of locks you into their battery, because you're not going to be able to get anything else that'll fit that unless you buy it from Rad. And then at the time when that bike came out, I had just started going into these what I call the Chinese batteries, right? It's the triangle batteries that goes into the frame of the bike, in the triangle frame of the bike. And so the reason I did that was because the batteries are expensive from Rad. I believe the Rad Rover 5's battery was like $549 or something like that. And then they didn't give you a charger, so if you want to charge the battery on a second charger, you got to pay $39 for the second charger. Then, of course, there's sales tax and all that. And then they charge you $60 for the shipping. $60. And that's because shipping a lithium-ion battery is not cheap. Okay? So all in all, after I added it all up with my sales tax and all that stuff with the things I was going to get, it was going to be a little over $700 to get a second battery. I needed the second battery because I wanted range. I wanted to go farther. So I said, no, I'm not spending $700. And on top of that, these are both 14.5 amp hour batteries, which would give me a grand total, let's just round it off, of 15 and 15 or 30 amp hours, okay? Well, I thought about that, and I said, it's not worth it. So I started searching what other batteries are out there. And that's how I ended up with the triangle battery, okay? So I bought a 52-volt battery. Gives you a little extra oomph to it. And these are not 14.5s, these are 20 amp hour batteries. So I get even longer range. Ultimately, I ended up buying a second one, so I now have 40 amp hours between the two batteries, and they're now at 52 volts instead of 48 volts. And the cost of the batteries were about $400, just a little over $400 something. So I sold the original Rad Rover battery to somebody because he needed it for his Rad bike, and then I bought another triangle battery. All right, let's see. Everything is red. All right, we'll just have to wait here. So yeah, so now I have more range and my cost is less overall. And we got a lot of right turners, but he's waiting. So obviously they can't go, but I can, so I'm gonna. So here's what I learned from all that. If you want to go places, you need range. The only way to get range is you need more amp hours. So regardless whether it's a 48 volt battery or it's a 52 volt battery, that doesn't matter so much to me. It's the amp hours. The more amp hours you have on a battery, the farther you're going to be able to go. Keep in mind too that I'm way overweight. I carry a lot of stuff on my bike. Hold on. Oh, these crab apples. Hey. And yeah, I carry a lot of stuff on my bike. I'm overweight. So I'm maxing this thing out in terms of its maximum weight handling abilities. So that's the first lesson. Get a decent battery if you want to go distance. Another thing too is going up hills. The better your motor is, of course, the better your hill climbing is. The only area I have a problem climbing is that one hill that I always mention as we get closer right after that bridge. I have to pedal up hard or I'm not going to get over the top of that hill. All the other ones I'm fine. So, do I need a more powerful motor? Not really, but it would be nice to have it. I know the Hemiway would have no problems going over that thing. So, so that's the second thing I'm going to tell you that I learned. Get a full, true 750 watt motor. Okay? And that's the one thing I think was not really up front with Rad. They still claim it as 750, but man, so many people say it's really 500. Now the Rad Rover 6 claims, I think, something like 14% better ability. I don't know if you can feel that or not, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, did they truly put a full 750 in there, or did they somehow tweak this 500 watt motor? I don't know, because they say it is a different motor in there. So that's a good thing. It's also about a $300 upcharge. They're giving you some stuff. They're giving you hydraulic brakes. I don't know if that's a full hydraulic or whether that's a semi-hydraulic. If the whole full cabling system is hydraulic, then that's a hydraulic brake. I haven't seen one, so I can't really say. But early reports were that they were not. They were just hydraulic calipers. But I don't know for a fact, so you can check that yourself. Okay. So yeah, would I buy a Rad Rover 6 then for $300 more? My answer would be no, I would not. I would not upgrade to the Rad Rover 6. Okay? And the reasoning is because I wouldn't be using Rad's battery. So if I take that battery out and I try to put a triangle battery in there, I don't even know if the triangle battery fits in that particular geometry. But let's say it does. Now my down tube is not a full down tube. It's a partial down tube because it's cut away for the battery that I would not be having inside that area on the bike. So I would tend to think that would make the frame maybe a little bit less strong that way. So I do like the idea of the hydraulic brakes, whether it's a full hydraulic or a partial hydraulic. I actually plan on changing out my brakes, putting hydraulic calipers that's available from Bolton E-Bikes. Great, thank you. Person stopped and let me through. So I'm okay with that. I know that the full hydraulics are much better brakes. But for me, since I'm modifying this Rad Rover 5, I didn't really want to go and mess with the having to change out the levers, and there's a brake cutoff and everything that you have to deal with, which some of the hydraulic brakes don't have the ability to do. So I said, that's too much effort, it's too hard. So I'm going to leave the levers alone and just change the calipers, and the calipers are hydraulic. So not as strong as full hydraulics, but better than the full mechanicals. So anyways, so what about other brands? You know, I looked at all the other brands from the reviews that I see online, and nothing really excites me that I would actually go and change. Not that I would ever change it anyways, because quite frankly, I don't need another bike. So the bad parts of my bike is, being that the brakes aren't the greatest, I'm constantly fiddling with it to, get brake pads closer and all that kind of stuff. That's why I decided I got to buy at least the hydraulic calipers from Bolton E-Bikes. So I'm still waiting for that to come in, but That's one change I would do. I've already changed the batteries. I got 2 of the triangle batteries. So that's a change. The headlights, not strong enough. I don't go riding at night anyway, so it really doesn't matter for me. But I leave my headlights and taillights on during I'm riding, even during daylight, just for visibility. So I have the rear tail light on my bike blinking all the time. You could have it solid or blinking. When you pull on the brake lever, it comes brighter, telling people that you're braking, if you have it on a solid thing. But I have it on blinking, and then the headlights on just for visibility. I added a second thing. I think I talked to you guys about that before. I have a headlamp that I use when I go fishing, ones that you strap onto your head. That thing blinks, so I now have that blinking plus the one that comes on the bike. So I have a blinking light in the front and a solid light in the front. Not bright enough, but still, it's enough to grab a little bit of attention, so I do that. I would get a bike that I can add at least a rear rack and a front basket, because I find that to come in very handy. Front basket, if we go shopping, my wife and I sometimes have gone shopping before, we'll just throw everything in the front basket and I just bring everything back. She goes into the store and buys stuff. I wait outside with the bikes. She gives me the stuff. I bring it back in the front basket. If it's too big, I have a backpack. I can always throw things into the backpack. So, what else have I learned? Tires wear out fast. Okay. I don't remember exactly how many miles it was when I actually rotated my tires, and then after I did a front and rear rotation, I decided that the front tires, which used to be the rear tires, was too worn out. I felt like I wasn't able to have a positive turning ability. I felt like I was sliding out and stuff, so I swapped out with brand new Kenda tires, the same exact tires that came with my bike. But man, tires are expensive. All right, these Kendas from Rad, I think they were like $55, if I'm not mistaken, per tire, something like that. Plus, I think it was $15 to ship the pair or something. It was still cheaper doing that than it was to find other outside tires. And I figured if I had as many miles as I did, I don't know what it is. I'm going to give you figures. I know I'm wrong. I'll have to look it up. But let's say 1,800 miles, something like that. I don't know what it was. I'll look it up. That wasn't too bad. I've heard some people say that their tires wore out after 900 miles. Well, they might be riding on harder things than I am. I always ride on paths like this, so my wear is not as heavy as theirs. The rear tire does wear out faster than your fronts. In fact, my current rear tire is nearly bald. There's not a whole lot of center nubs on it anymore. I'm planning to swap out the tire with the other Kenda tire that I bought when the brakes come in, because since I got to deal with the brakes, I might as well deal with the tires at that time. So I'll have essentially new tires on the back for next season, because by the time this thing shows up, I won't have a whole lot of riding season left. Other brands of tires were better, possibly, but I felt that for the money, couldn't beat the $55. And I got decent mileage, I guess, out of it. But man, these things are so expensive, I feel like I'm buying a car tire. Some of them, the one that I was looking at before, the Originate Supercells, originally I saw online were maybe, I don't know what it was, at $67 or something like that. And they're like $99 each now. I'm not going to pay that kind of money for these tires. Forget it. If I can get one for $55 and I have to swap it out a little earlier, oh well. That's what I'm going to do. Plus, I felt that if I had street tires, which don't have little knobby things, if I go up on the grass like I sometimes do, it would be a little slicker that way. I'd rather have a little bit of nubs on the tire. All right, what else have I learned? You do need to play with your gears. Sometimes you have to change the gears, all right? We're talking 5th gear, 6th gear, 7th gear, whatever. All right, a lot of people don't do that. They just do the assist, all right? No, you got to do both. If you want more range, you keep a lower pedal assist. You're not using so much battery, you get more range out of your battery. But you're also working harder. I find that if I wanted range, before I got the triangle batteries, I was on pedal assist level 2 most of the time. But now that I have a lot of range, a lot of battery power, I'm usually stuck on 3. I use 4 and 5 when I need to go faster. I also found that pedaling and throttling at the same time, which I'm doing right now, gives me a boost. Others would use the assist thing, boost up a little bit, then boost down, up, down, up, down. Faster just use the throttle. Throttle and pedal at the same exact time. So you see I'll go back and forth between throttling. So yeah, sometimes you just need a little bit of boost. Easier that way. So what about the bikes again? What would I buy? Well, to answer John's question, what would I upgrade to? I thought about it. I says, well, I might do a Hemiway cruiser if I wanted to change, because it's got that better motor, okay, but it still has the mechanical brakes. Still have to do an upgrade somewhere there, okay, and essentially it is the same thing as a Rad Rover. So if I had to do it again, what would I do? Well, I know that I would not buy some of these bikes that are really not bikes designed for pedaling. Although you have pedals, they're really designed for people who like the throttle. Okay, they look like little mini bikes, right? Like little what do they call those things? I don't know. BMX bikes, is that what they are? I would not buy that, like the Super 73s. I would not buy that. I like a regular bike, okay? Would I buy another fat tire bike? Yes, I would. I kind of like the fat tire bikes. I like suspension, front suspension. I don't have a suspension on my seat post, but I don't really feel I need it. Although everyone says I need to do it, but I'm fine. I don't seem to have a problem with what I have. I would definitely upgrade the seat, the saddle. So I have the Bikeroo with the elastomers, not the one with the springs, because I had springs before on another bike, and one side always seemed lopsided to me. The spring wasn't too well adjusted. Couldn't readjust it either. So I would upgrade all the seats to that. I think if I were to do another bike, I wouldn't do another bike. If I were to do it again today, I would do the same exact bike. I would do a Rad Rover 5. I would get the 2 triangle batteries again. All right, I would get the front and rear racks. Essentially the same bike. In other words, I wouldn't change anything as far as model. What I would do is I would spend the money and do the upgrades. Okay, I might change out the controller, change out the motor, stronger controller, which of course has a different display screen. I would change out the brakes to a full hydraulic brake system with cutoff too for the motor. Have somebody work on that. I don't think I would do that one on myself. I think I would bring it to a bike shop and ask them to do it. Oh, by the way, we were only 1 mile shy of 2,500 miles. I'll show it to you when we hit it. So, yeah, that's what I would do. I wouldn't buy another bike. I would buy upgrades to upgrade the current bike. Because I really have had no real problems with the Rad Rover 5. Nothing that really drastically makes me hate the bike or anything like that. The things that it's missing, I would fix. I would change the brakes on it. I would change the motor, perhaps, on it. Upgrade the controller on it. Change out the batteries, and I need the high step version, not the step through, because I need that triangle in order to put that battery in the triangle. So yeah, I would not buy another bike. I would just upgrade what I have. And really, I'm almost there anyways. I have not changed out the battery or controller, and I don't have full hydraulic brakes. Other than that, I pretty much have everything I want my bike to have. I'm not interested in the fastest bike, although I do like my speed when I'm on the road with cars. But again, this bike, just like all Class 2 bikes, tops out at 20 miles an hour, but you can change it to do 25, which is what my bike is set up to do. So you'll usually see that my bike will be at 22, 23, 24 miles an hour sometimes. My intention is not to use that to go for speed, other than to get off of the street faster. If I'm on a heavily traveled road, I don't want to be on there any longer than I have to be. So I typically go a little bit faster. Okay, we hit 2,500 miles. Let me show it to you here. Let me pull off for a second. All right, let me see if I can angle down a tad here. You guys see that? 2,500. Yeah. 2,500 miles. Yeah, not bad. It's, what's today's date? October 10, is it? I think it's the 10. I got my bike in early April. So basically 6 months to hit 2,500 miles. Yeah, all right. So our new goal is to try to hit 2,600 miles before the season's over. But we have hit the 2,500, or at least. That's good. Anyways, that's basically what I wanted to say today. That the things I've learned are you want range. Eventually, you're going to want the range. You're going to want to add another battery or change out a battery. You're going to be paying for accessories, okay? There's no way to buy an e-bike without putting stuff on it. I guarantee you, whatever price that the bike says it is, you're going to be buying more stuff for it. It's going to cost you more than you think, okay? The number one thing I think you need to immediately do is get a rear view mirror, because you don't want to be looking over your shoulder constantly. You want to be able to just look in the mirror to see if there's anyone coming up from behind and cars coming up if you're on the street. So rear view mirror, definitely. Left-hand rear view mirror is the bare minimum. Okay, you're probably going to want a cell phone holder, which I have on my bike, because I use the map a lot to get places, so you need to have something to hold your phone up. I have a Bluetooth speaker. You never see me use it because I can't play music and run the YouTube videos. But when I'm not talking to you guys, I usually have music running. I don't blast it. It's just enough so that I can hear it. I don't like to be so loud that it bothers other people when I'm riding. But this particular one, I play my own music. There's a micro SD card that has my music on it, so I can play it directly on here. And then it also Bluetooths from my phone, so I can send off all the music I have on the phone onto the Bluetooth speaker. Okay, I do carry some pepper spray with me at all times. That's down over here. I don't know if you guys can see it. Let's pull it out. There it is, Saber. Maximum strength pepper gel. All right, so I do carry some pepper spray with me. Those are the things that I think you need to have. You're to need to eventually change out tires and things, you'll need a bike pump. You know, I like the one that has its own compressor, so I don't have to hand pump it or anything like that. I just turn it on and let it pump away. So little things you're gonna need. Anyways, I hope this has been helpful for you guys. I appreciate you guys following along. I wanted to take you guys out to see the 2,500 mile turn on the bike, which we have done. But yeah, we'll keep going until it's too cold to handle it, or in case it's raining and stuff, we can't go bike riding. So yeah, keep watching. I'll do it as long as I can do it. If you like the video, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll talk to you guys next time.